I stand alone by Grandpa Henry's casket, the last mourner left at Silverton Cemetery. My fingers trace the rough grain of the simple wooden box while everyone else heads to their cars, relief evident in their hurried steps. The small jar of honey in my hand catches the late afternoon sun, turning the contents to liquid gold. Some inheritances aren't measured in dollars and cents, I whisper, the words carried away by a cool autumn breeze. The memory washes over me sitting on Grandpa's lap at 8 years old, giggling as he let me dip a finger into fresh honeycomb. The sweetness spreading across my tongue while he explained how the bees transformed nectar into treasure. That was before the family decided Honey Ridge Farm was a burden, not a blessing. Before they convinced him to let it slowly die. The attorney's office smells of leather and old books, a heavy mahogany desk separating Mr. Livingston from our small family. Mom adjusts her pearl necklace, eyes darting to the clock every few minutes. Dad shifts impatiently, his starched collar already wilting in the stuffy room. My sister Delia taps at her phone, not even pretending to care about this formality. Now then. Mr. Livingston clears his throat, unfolding the document with careful hands. Regarding the property known as Honey Ridge Farm, consisting of the main residence, outbuildings, and 2.5 acres in Silverton. Just tell us what it's worth so we can sell, Dad interrupts, his voice carrying the same dismissive tone he's used about Grandpa's farm for 20 years. Delia glances up from her phone. Agreed. Liquidate and distribute. Simple. Actually, Mr. Livingston peers over his reading glasses. Your father was quite specific about his wishes. He adjusts the papers. The property is to be held jointly by the family unless one member wishes to purchase the other's shares. Mom sighs dramatically. Who would want a derelict bee farm? It's been abandoned for years. We'd be lucky to get anything for it. The county assessment values it at approximately $95,000, Mr. Livingston replies. Delia snorts. Who would pay that for a collapsing farmhouse and dead bee boxes? I watch them, the way they dismiss Grandpa's legacy without a second thought. Something twists in my chest, a familiar ache of watching them undervalue what matters to me. Like the science fair project in 5th grade that Delia claimed she'd helped with, when she'd merely glanced at it before my parents showered her with praise. Or the way they beam with pride at her corporate promotions while referring to my administrative job as sensible and practical, their code for unambitious. What they don't know is that beneath my practical exterior lies 6 years of quiet rebellion, 6 years of brown bag lunches, thrift store clothes, and a tiny shared apartment. 6 years of saying no to vacations and dinners out. 6 years of watching my savings account grow while they assumed I was just getting by on my modest salary. I'll buy it, I say, the words escaping before I can reconsider. 3 heads swivel toward me, expressions ranging from surprise to amusement. You'll what? Dad asks, eyebrows raised. I'll buy your shares, $62,000 over 3 years. The laughter starts with Delia, sharp and dismissive. With what money? Your administrative salary barely covers rent in Portland. Mom reaches over, patting my hand. Honey, you don't know the first thing about farming. And beekeeping? It's complicated, specialized work. Their laughter burns, but I've prepared for this moment without even knowing it. I reach into my bag and withdraw a bank statement, sliding it across the polished desk. $25,000 down payment today, the rest in monthly installments. I keep my voice steady. I can sign the contract right now. Kanakalari. The laughter stops. Dad picks up the statement, squinting at the balance. $38,462.17. Where did you get this money? He demands. I saved it. For 6 years. I meet his gaze. Every paycheck. Delia snatches the paper. This is ridiculous. You can't possibly maintain that property. It'll be foreclosed in a year, and you'll have wasted everything. I turn to Mr. Livingston. Please prepare the paperwork. Miriam, be reasonable, Mom pleads. That money could be a down payment on a real house, not some fantasy about rescuing a dead farm. I straighten my shoulders. It's not a fantasy. It's Grandpa's legacy. Fine. Delia tosses the statement back at me. Take it. You'll fail, and we won't bail you out when you come crawling back. Then you have nothing to lose by signing, I reply, surprising myself with the calm in my voice. Mr. Livingston clears his throat. I can have the papers ready within the hour, if that's amenable to everyone. Dad looks at Mom, who shrugs with exasperation. Let her learn the hard way. An hour later, I stand outside the attorney's office, a folder of signed documents clutched to my chest. Rain begins to fall, gentle at first, then heavier, but I don't open my umbrella. The cold drops seep through my blouse, but I barely notice. For the first time in my adult life, I've chosen my own path instead of the one laid out for me. My farm now waits for me, broken and abandoned. Like me, it's been overlooked, underestimated, forgotten. But beneath the neglect, I know something vital still lives, just waiting for someone who believes enough to bring it back. I look up into the rain, letting it wash the tension from my face. A honeybee hovers impossibly near, sheltering under the building's small awning, its wings catching what little light remains in the stormy afternoon. We'll make it. I whisper to the bee, to Grandpa, to myself. Watch me. The following day, the second-hand pickup truck groans as I navigate the rutted dirt road leading to Honey Ridge Farm. Each pothole jolts through my spine, a physical reminder of what I've gotten myself into. The truck, a faded blue Chevy with more rust than paint, cost nearly all my remaining cash after the down payment. $8,000 left to my name and a property that looks like it's been abandoned for decades, not years. My stomach knots as I pull up to the farmhouse. The white paint has surrendered to weather, peeling away in long strips like discarded snakeskin. The porch sags in the middle, a toothless smile of broken boards and missing railings. Tall grass and wild blackberry vines swallow the lower half of the structure. What have I done? I whisper, clutching the steering wheel until my knuckles blanch. I force myself out of the truck, boots crunching on gravel and broken glass. The late April sun beats down, as I survey what's mine, now overgrown fields stretching toward distant tree lines, collapsed wooden structures that must have been beehives, equipment rusted beyond recognition. Something tightens in my throat as I approach the weathered shed behind the house. The padlock hanging on the door is new. Grandpa must have replaced it before he got too sick to visit. I fumble with the key from the attorney's envelope and push open the creaking door. The smell hits me first beeswax and wood, sweet and earthy. Dust motes dance in sunlight streaming through grimy windows. Tools hang on the walls in perfect order, untouched for years but meticulously arranged. A workbench spans one wall, jars of unidentifiable substances lined up like soldiers. My fingers brush over a leather-bound book centered on the workbench. Honey Ridge Journal, 1974 to 2018. I open it to find Grandpa's handwriting, neat and precise, chronicling decades of bee colonies, honey production, and weather patterns. I thought the Collins family sold this place years ago. I startle, dropping the journal with a thud. An elderly woman stands in the doorway, her silver hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun, eyes sharp despite the wrinkles surrounding them. Mrs. Jenkins? Recognition flickers as childhood memories surface. I'm Miriam, Henry's granddaughter. I know who you are. She steps into the shed, appraising me with a critical eye. You were the quiet one, always following Henry around with those big eyes, asking questions. I nod, surprised she remembers. I bought the farm from my family. Bought it? Her eyebrows shoot up. Well, that explains why your father looked like he'd swallowed something sour at the funeral. Man never did appreciate what Henry built here. My laugh comes out hollow. None of them did. Mrs. Jenkins moves closer, examining the journal. Your grandfather created something special with those bees, had a way with them nobody else did. I don't know the first thing about beekeeping, I admit, the reality of my situation sinking deeper. But I couldn't let it go to developers. She studies me, head tilted. You need to find Thomas Hale. He was your grandfather's right hand for 20 years. Thomas Hale? The name sounds vaguely familiar. Ornery old cuss who knows more about bees than most books. Works part-time at Peterson's Hardware in town. She heads toward the door. Find him. He's your only shot at making this place work again. 2 days later, I spot him at the hardware store, tall and lean, with weather-beaten skin and steel-gray hair tucked under a faded baseball cap. He's explaining something about wood glue to a customer, hands moving in precise, economical gestures. I wait until the customer leaves before approaching. Mr. Hale? I'm Miriam Ross. Henry Collins was my grandfather. Indicia. His face hardens instantly. Collins' family never cared about those bees. 20 years of work, abandoned like yesterday's newspaper. I bought the farm, I say, The word's still strange on my tongue. From my parents and sister. He snorts. Good luck with that, city girl. I pull Grandpa's journal from my bag and open it to the last page. A loose sheet falls out, a handwritten note in shaky script. Thomas knows the secret. Trust him with Honey Ridge. Something in Thomas's weathered face softens as he takes the paper, his fingers tracing Grandpa's handwriting. His eyes, pale blue and sharp, study me with renewed interest. You're serious about this? Not just looking to flip the property? I put down my life savings, I answer. I have exactly $13,000 left, a farm I don't know how to run, and a family waiting for me to fail. The next morning, Thomas meets me at Honey Ridge. We walk the property in methodical rows, his notebook filling with observations. He stops at each collapsed hive, occasionally salvaging a piece of equipment or frame. I don't have skills, I tell him bluntly as we rest beneath an ancient oak tree. Just determination and what's left of my savings. I can offer you $15 an hour. No favors, fair wages. We rebuild together or not at all. Thomas studies me carefully, the silence stretching between us. Bees know when someone's honest, he finally says. They can sense intention. Your grandfather understood that. Clace. He points toward a distant tree where something dark clusters against the trunk. See that? Wild swarm. Your grandfather's bees never really left. They've been waiting. The next week crushes what little optimism I'd mustered. The bank loan officer barely glances at my business proposal before rejecting it. Too risky for conventional financing, he explains, not meeting my eyes. I tack a calendar to the farmhouse kitchen wall, circling the date 10 months away when my first payment to the family is due. My phone buzzes constantly with Delia's texts. Given up yet? Ready to sell? You could still recover some of your investment. I ignore them all. Thomas arrives each morning at 7, teaching me beekeeping fundamentals between clearing overgrowth and repairing equipment. His patience never wavers as I fumble with smokers and protective gear. When he discovers Grandpa's queen breeding records tucked behind a loose board in the shed, his eyes light up. This is worth more than gold if we can resurrect this lineage. He breathes. Henry was breeding for disease resistance decades before it became standard practice. One evening, as sunset paints the sky amber and gold, we clear the final section of overgrown brush near the eastern property line. Water glistens in the fading light, a spring-fed pond I never knew existed, hidden by years of neglect. Perfect spot for the first new hive. Thomas says, satisfaction warming his voice. Protected, south-facing, near water and flowering meadow. 2 days later, we position the rebuilt hive near the pond. Thomas shows me how to examine the wild swarm from the oak tree, his movements gentle and precise. Look here, he whispers, pointing to a marked queen. She's carrying Henry's original strain. Notice the coloration, the size. I stare in wonder at the tiny insect, barely larger than the workers surrounding her. How is that possible after all these years? Thomas's eyes crinkle at the corners. Henry always said patience outlasts ridicule. He was right about most things. That night, I slept in the farmhouse for the first time. No electricity yet, but the spring water runs clear, and candles illuminate the kitchen, where I write in my own journal by flickering light. Outside, crickets sing to the moon while somewhere in the darkness, Grandpa's bees have come home. So have I. By the end of the summer, the FSA microloan approval letter trembles in my hands. $25,000. The number blurs as tears well up, but I blink them away. No time for that. We did it, Thomas. I pass the letter to him across the newly installed pine table in the farmhouse kitchen. You're officially farm operations manager now. Thomas adjusts his reading glasses, weathered hands gentle with the paper. His eyes scan the document, a smile creasing the corners of his mouth. Never doubted it for a minute. Rain pounds against the new tin roof, the steady drumming a reminder of how far we've come. Just last week, Thomas and I huddled under tarps while local contractors rushed to finish installation before the summer storm hit. Now we sit dry and warm as water streams from the eaves in silver curtains. Remember when you wouldn't even come inside this house? Thomas chuckles, folding the letter carefully. Said it was too depressing. That was before we had running water and electricity. I rub my calloused palms together, still surprised by their roughness after months of farm work. Speaking of water, the well test came back clean. Another item checked off. Outside, 12 new beehives stand in neat rows along the eastern edge of the property, their white boxes gleaming against the backdrop of Douglas firs. Each morning I walk the line, watching workers zoom in and out like tiny commuters rushing to important meetings. Henry's bees, thriving again. I slide the Honey Ridge Farm LLC registration certificate across the table, official as of yesterday. Thomas taps the paper with his index finger. Your grandfather would bust his buttons seeing this, especially those 64 jars of honey we bottled yesterday. The memory of our first harvest warms me from within the golden liquid flowing from the extractor, Thomas teaching me to strain it through cheesecloth. The sweet aroma filling the workshop as we filled jar after jar with wildflower honey. Premium quality, Thomas declared. Best he'd seen in years. My phone buzzes with a notification. The group text I sent inviting Mom, Dad, and Delia to the Honey Ridge Revival Day shows 3 read receipts, 3 gray dots, 0 responses. Thomas watches my face fall but says nothing. I force a smile and pocket the phone. Their loss, I say, the words sounding more confident than I feel. Later that evening, as I'm labeling honey jars in the workshop, my phone pings again. A photo appears Mom, Dad, and Delia, clinking champagne glasses at some fancy restaurant. The caption reads, "Celebrating our Delia's Financial Innovation Award. So proud." Mom's follow-up text appears seconds later. Our proudest daughter. Hearts and celebration emojis trail after the words like confetti. My throat tightens. Thomas, organizing supplies across the room, glances over as my phone clatters onto the workbench. Family? He asks, already knowing the answer. I nod, unable to speak for a moment. Thomas walks over, picking up a jar of honey and holding it to the light. You know something about bees that might help? They don't need applause to make honey, they just do the work. The phone rings 2 days later. Mom inviting me to dinner at their house. Just family, she says. Her voice carries that artificial brightness she uses when there's an agenda. Delia specifically asked if you could make it. Alarm bells ring in my head, but curiosity wins. I accept. Dad pours wine while Mom fusses with a roast that's clearly been catered. Delia sits across from me, designer outfit impeccable, smile calculating. So, she says after Mom serves the salad. The farm. Show me the books. I nearly choke on a cherry tomato. The books? Financial records, business plan, projections. She ticks them off on manicured fingers. I've been thinking, this could be interesting if structured properly. Dad nods enthusiastically. Delia's been telling us her ideas. Makes a lot of sense. I could handle the finances while you do the fieldwork. Delia continues, leaning forward. Let's make it a Ross Sisters venture. I know investors who'd jump at this. The family farm angle is marketing gold. Mom beams at her. Delia's business expertise would take this hobby to the next level, honey. It's not a hobby, I say quietly, setting down my fork. It's a viable business with a solid plan and a partner I trust. This Thomas person? Dad waves dismissively. What does he know about modern business practices? He knows bees, I answer, and loyalty. Delia's smile hardens. Miriam, be practical. You need me. I stand, folding my napkin. Thank you for dinner. I need to get back to check the hives. Their protests follow me to the door, but I don't look back. Outside, Thomas's truck idles at the curb. He rolls down the window, nodding at my surprised expression. Figured you might need a ride, he says simply. People only show up when they smell honey. A week passes. The reporter from Oregon Life and Farm arrives unannounced, camera slung over her shoulder. Your neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, told me about what you're doing here, she explains, gazing at the transformed property. Mind if I do a feature? The article runs the following Sunday. Granddaughter revives Oregon's forgotten bee farm. The photo spread captures Thomas showing me his grandfather's extraction method. Our easy partnership evident in every frame. Orders flood in $9,400 in the first month, exceeding our projections by 30%. I established the Honey Ridge Heritage label, featuring Grandpa Henry's sketch of the original farmhouse. Thomas teaches me his honey extraction methods, passed down through generations of beekeepers. Each evening ends with us on the porch, watching bees return to their hives as darkness falls. You've got the touch. Thomas tells me one evening. Henry said some people have it, some don't. Can't be taught. The television flickers to life the next morning as I sip coffee. A local morning show plays in the background until a familiar voice snaps my attention to the screen. Delia sits poised on a studio couch, gesturing animatedly. As co-founder of Honey Ridge Farm, our family business vision integrates traditional beekeeping with modern, sustainable practices. The mug slips from my fingers, coffee splattering across the kitchen floor. I grab my phone, checking orders 3 canceled since yesterday. A quick search reveals why. Customer confusion about ownership. Thomas finds me still staring at the screen. Some people can't create, he says after I explain, so they take. Later that day, a package arrives. Inside, glossy business cards spill out. Honey Ridge Farms, Delia Ross, CEO. The extras on farms, like a deliberate distortion of my grandfather's legacy. We should confront her publicly, Thomas suggests, anger tightening his usually calm features. Set the record straight. I run my finger over Grandpa's sketch on our honey label. No, we'll let Honey Ridge speak for itself at the Harvest Festival. That afternoon, I called our printer. The new labels arrived 3 days later, identical, except for one subtle addition beneath the farm name: independent, family-free ownership, since 1974. Thomas reads it and laughs for the first time in days. Henry would have loved that. I stick the label on our first festival jar, sunlight catching the golden honey inside. Let's see her try to claim this now. The night before the Harvest Festival in October, I apply a small dot of beeswax to seal each of the handwritten labels on our special sage blend honey jars. Thomas had found Grandpa Henry's formula tucked between the pages of his beekeeping journal last month. When we sampled it, the complex flavor took me straight back to summer evenings on his porch. Hand me that wood polish, Thomas says, buffing the aged wooden sign that once hung over Grandpa's roadside stand. Honey Ridge Farm, Est. 1974, gleams in the workshop light, the letters almost singing with fresh oil. I slide over the cloth. The booth looks perfect. Not done yet. Thomas reaches behind the workbench and produces a small brass plaque he's mounted to the bottom of the sign. It reads, Miriam Ross, owner and beekeeper. My throat tightens. Thomas. Henry would be proud of the real owner. Thomas taps the edge of an envelope on the workbench. Speaking of which, I open it, hands trembling slightly. It's the final bank transfer receipt, the remaining payment to my family, delivered 3 months ahead of schedule. The deed transfer paperwork sits beside it, ready for tomorrow's notary appointment. We did it, I whisper. Thomas nods. You did it. A newspaper clipping sits nearby. Local entrepreneur revives family legacy, with my photo beside the rebuilt hives. The accompanying booth application lists just 2 names, Miriam Ross and Thomas Hale. Get some sleep, Thomas says, returning to his polishing. Tomorrow's your day. Morning arrives with unexpected brilliance. The festival grounds already swarm with activity as we set up, our rustic booth standing out among the sleek commercial displays with their digital signage and uniformed staff. Over here, calls a reporter from the Silverton Record, notebook in hand. Can you tell us about your family business revival? Before I can answer, Thomas gently steers her toward our display. Wait till you taste this, he says, offering a sample of our heritage blend. Traditional method, no heat processing, no industrial filters. The woman's eyes widen at the first taste. That's remarkable. The crowd grows steadily, pulling in curious onlookers who form a line 6 people deep. Thomas demonstrates an old-fashioned extraction technique while I handle transactions, the cash box filling faster than I dared hope. Is this the local honey everyone's talking about? A older gentleman with a festival judge ribbon leans forward, examining our display. Yes, sir. 5th-generation bees. I offer him a sample of Grandpa's sage blend. I spot them before they see me, Dad's silver-streaked hair, Mom's pearl earrings, Delia's designer sunglasses. They pause at the edge of the crowd, scanning the unexpected throng around our booth. Delia strides forward, slipping between customers. Sorry, coming through. She positions herself beside me, extending her hand to a customer. Delia Ross. So glad you're enjoying our honey. The woman looks confused. Oh, you work here too? Family business, Delia beams. I handle the business side while my sister manages production. A festival coordinator approaches with a local TV crew in tow. We'd like to feature Honey Ridge in our broadcast. Could we speak with the owner? Of course. Delia steps forward. The coordinator glances at his clipboard. That would be Miriam Ross? Right here, I say quietly, stepping from behind the cash box. The reporter turns to Thomas, who's demonstrating how to test honey viscosity. And you must be the founder? Thomas chuckles, his weathered face crinkling. No, ma'am. Just the caretaker. For Henry. And now for his granddaughter. Delia edges into frame as the camera starts rolling. The reporter continues interviewing me about the farm's revival, and I catch Mom nudging Dad, their expressions a mixture of surprise and calculation. A customer points to Delia. You must be so proud of your sister's achievement. Delia's smile freezes. We're all very invested in the farm's success. When the photographer from the Agricultural Quarterly asks for photos, I casually unfold the paid-in-full land contract across our display table. The camera clicks capture Delia's tight smile as the festival judge returns, blue ribbon in hand. Heritage Revival Award, he announces, pinning it to our booth. Best traditional product and presentation. Dad approaches awkwardly. Congratulations, Miriam. We didn't realize you'd made such progress. Thank you. I keep arranging jars, not meeting his eyes. Mom hovers nearby, fingering the blue ribbon. The booth looks charming. As the afternoon progresses, local business owners slip me their cards. We'd love to stock your honey at Riverdale Market. The Westfield B&B wants to feature local products in guest welcome baskets. A representative from the Agricultural Extension Office discusses potential grant opportunities for heritage breed preservation. Your grandfather's queen breeding program has historical significance. We should talk about conservation funding. During a brief lull, Delia corners me behind the booth. You could have included me. Her voice drops to a hiss. I've been offering to help for months. I meet her gaze steadily. Like you included me in your successes? The words come out calmer than I feel. All those award ceremonies I attended, all those congratulations I offered, you never once thought to share the spotlight. That was different. My achievements were individual, just like mine. I turn to help a customer. Thomas steps between us, sample tray in hand. Fresh batch just arrived. He tells the waiting customers, then adds quietly, family doesn't always share blood, sometimes just purpose. Delia's expression hardens. She rejoins our parents, who stand awkwardly at the edge of the continuing crowd. As they walk away, Delia glances back at the thriving booth, at the customers eagerly purchasing jars of honey, at Thomas and me working in seamless coordination. I exhale slowly, tension draining from my shoulders. You okay? Thomas asks, sliding another tray of samples onto the table. I nod, watching my family's retreating backs. I think I finally am. When December comes, the farmhouse windows rattle against wind that carries ice instead of air. I press my palm against the cold glass, watching the snow blanket Honey Ridge Farm in white silence. My phone vibrates on the counter, the hospital calling again. Miss Ross? Thomas's condition has worsened overnight. The pneumonia isn't responding to the initial treatment. My throat tightens. I'll be right there. I grab my coat and the small jar from the kitchen shelf. Late season honey, amber gold and thick. The last batch Thomas and I harvested before his cough turned from annoying to alarming. The hospital corridor smells of antiseptic and fear. Thomas looks smaller somehow, oxygen tubes threading from his nose, monitors beeping their mechanical lullaby. His weathered hands rest atop white sheets, strangely still without their usual purpose. You brought the good stuff, he whispers when he sees the jar, his voice scraping like winter branches against a window. The wildflower batch. Grandpa's favorite. I place it on his bedside table, twisting the lid open so the sweet scent might combat the hospital's sterility. Thomas shifts, wincing with the effort. January's the hardest month for the bees. You'll need to check the ventilation holes. Clear any dead bees from the entrances after snowfall. I've got it covered, I say, though worry gnaws at my certainty. The syrup ratio changes in deep winter. 2-to-1, not 1-to-1. His breathing catches, triggering a coughing spell that leaves him exhausted. Save your strength, I urge, but Thomas shakes his head. The colonies need you now. His eyes, though clouded with fever, fix on mine with startling clarity. Don't forget to eat dinner yourself. You forget when you're working. I pull out a notebook, writing down every instruction while fighting back tears. I promise to follow every step. Thomas nods, satisfied. I show him photos of Honey Ridge on my phone, the hives wrapped in their winter insulation. The workshop organized just as he taught me. the new queen rearing equipment we'd ordered before he fell ill. Henry would be proud, he says, his calloused fingertip hovering over the screen, of both of us. My phone interrupts with a text from Mom. Thinking about hosting family Christmas at the farm this year. The property photographs beautifully in snow. I silence the phone without responding. When a nurse comes to check Thomas's vitals, I step outside to find 3 missed calls from Delia. Her voicemail plays with manufactured enthusiasm. Mir, I've got a fantastic photographer who could do a professional shoot for the brand. Thinking we should revamp the marketing strategy before spring. An email notification follows. A business proposal for Ross Family Apiaries with Delia's marketing firm handling distribution. The sudden interest in Honey Ridge burns like winter wind against exposed skin. 6 months of silence while I rebuilt what they'd written off, and now they want to claim it. The nurse touches my shoulder. He's asking for you. I spend the evening reading Grandpa Henry's journals aloud to Thomas. The faded handwriting describes winters from decades past, techniques for helping colonies survive bitter cold, observations of bee behavior during January thaws. Thomas closes his eyes, not sleeping but remembering, occasionally murmuring clarifications or adding details Henry had omitted. Mom calls again while I'm leaving the hospital. We need to discuss Christmas plans. Your father thinks. I can't talk now, I interrupt. I need to check the hives during this snowstorm. In this weather? That's ridiculous. The bees don't care what's ridiculous. They need me. I hang up, driving straight to Honey Ridge through thickening snow. I clear entrances by flashlight, check windbreaks, and adjust winter wrappings according to Thomas's instructions. My fingers go numb, but I work until every hive is secure. Thomas slips away 2 weeks after Christmas, during the worst January snowfall in 15 years. I'm holding his hand when his breathing changes, slows, stops. The hospital window shows a world transformed into white, as if the snow might soften the sharp edges of loss. We hold a small memorial service in the farm workshop once the road's clear. Just a handful of local beekeepers, Mrs. Jenkins from next door, and the hardware store owner who'd extended credit during our lean months. No family, though I'd sent the details. I hang Thomas's worn beekeeper's hat on the wall beside Grandpa's photograph. The 2 men who believed in me when no one else would. Not everyone born family stays family. I whisper to the empty workshop after the others leave. Winter solitude settles over Honey Ridge like another layer of snow. I care for the bees alone, learning to trust my instincts without Thomas's guidance. Each morning I check every hive, my routine meticulous, finding comfort in the methodical work. While organizing Thomas's few belongings from the workshop desk, I discover a folder of handwritten notes, future plans for Honey Ridge, breeding programs for strengthening our queen lines. Expansion possibilities he'd been researching. His final gift, contact information for a regional organic co-op with a post-it note attached, when you're ready. Spring arrives with unexpected visitors. I'm inspecting a newly active hive when tires crunch on gravel. My parents' luxury SUV pulls up beside Delia's sleek company car. There she is. Dad calls out, as if we'd parted on good terms months ago. We're here to help with the business. Mom surveys the property with appraising eyes. We've been discussing ways to modernize the operation. Delia has connections with distribution channels in Portland. Delia holds out a glossy folder. I've drafted a marketing proposal. See how I've positioned the Ross family legacy angle? My name fits perfectly in the executive leadership section. I close the hive carefully before standing to face them. Without speaking, I gesture for them to follow me. I walk them through the thriving apiary, past the expanded extraction room, to the workshop where Thomas's memorial sits alongside Grandpa's. Honey Ridge isn't a family business. I say finally, my voice steady. It's my promise to 2 men who believed in me. I point to Thomas's hat, to Grandpa's photograph. They taught me that some things aren't measured in dollars or corporate connections. They're measured in honest work and keeping your word. Dad starts to argue, but stops at something he sees in my face. Mom's smile falters, her eyes darting to Delia for support. You can't run this alone. Delia insists, though uncertainty creeps into her voice. I'm not alone. I gesture to the bees working in the spring sunshine, to the farm coming back to life. I never was. They leave without the confrontation I expected, Mom glancing back once with an expression I can't quite read. Delia storms to her car without looking back. I return to the hives. where thousands of workers continue their ancient dance of survival and creation, indifferent to human drama, focused only on what sustains them, just as Thomas taught me. I stand at the edge of the flowering meadow, watching 36 hives pulse with life as the summer sun warms the backs of my honeybees. A year has transformed Honey Ridge from a forgotten inheritance to the talk of Silverton County. Wildflowers sway in the gentle breeze, a living testament to what stubbornness and belief can create. "Miss Ross? The school group is here," calls Melissa, the agricultural student I hired last spring. Her enthusiasm reminds me of myself at 8, wide-eyed in Grandpa's workshop. "Coming," I answer, straightening my work shirt. The Sustainable Agriculture Stewardship plaque catches the sunlight from its place beside the extraction room door, validation I never sought, but welcome all the same. Inside the expanded honey shed, stainless steel equipment gleams where rust and cobwebs once claimed territory. Children from Silverton Elementary press their noses against observation windows as worker bees deposit their golden treasure. Their teacher, Mrs. Patterson, catches my eye and nods with approval. The same woman who taught me in 5th grade now brings her students to learn about ecosystems from me. "Who can tell me why bees dance?" I ask, slipping into the rhythm of the workshop I've given dozens of times now. A boy in a red baseball cap raises his hand. "To tell other bees where the good flowers are." "Exactly right," I smile, pointing to the observation hive where forager bees perform their ancient figure-8 waltz. Just like people share good news with friends. When the tour ends, a familiar silver sedan pulls into the drive. My stomach tightens as Delia steps out, her designer heels sinking slightly into the gravel. She's alone this time, no parents flanking her like twin shields. "Your workshop looked impressive," she says, glancing around the property with new eyes. "National Organic Certification. Your name in that agriculture magazine. Not bad for a dead bee farm." I don't rise to the bait. "Thanks for coming. What can I do for you?" She fidgets with her car keys. "I should have supported you from the start." The words hang between us, unexpected and tentative. I wait, letting silence draw out what lies beneath. "I was jealous," she continues, swallowing hard, "of your independence, your courage to just leap. You built something real while I've been chasing promotions that don't matter." Her admission washes over me without the vindication I once imagined. Instead, I feel only the weight of wasted years. "Want a tour?" I offer, gesturing toward the apiary. We walk the rows of white hives named for constellations, Grandpa's way of mapping his world. The tension between us thaws with each step. "These are Thomas's modifications," I explain, showing her the ventilation system he designed before his passing. "He changed the whole game for winter survival rates." "Mom and Dad never mention him," Delia says quietly, like they want to forget anyone who proved them wrong. Sunlight catches in her hair the same shade as mine as she stops to watch bees return laden with pollen. For a moment, I glimpse the sister I might have had. "I was thinking we could start over," she suggests. "Sister to sister. No business, just family." The old Miriam would have jumped at this olive branch, starved for approval. But the woman who coaxed Grandpa's queens back to life knows better now. "Family isn't taken, Delia. It's earned." Her face falls slightly, but she nods. "Fair enough." At the honey house, I hand her a small jar with a special gold label. Grandpa's sage blend. We found his recipe in the old journals. She studies the jar, then meets my eyes. "Will I ever be welcome here again?" "You're welcome as a visitor," I tell her honestly. "Not as an owner. Some things can't be shared until trust is rebuilt." After she leaves, I walk to the apple tree where Grandpa's wooden bench now stands restored. Thomas's straw hat hangs from a low branch beside me, my daily reminder of promises kept. The conservation easement papers sit in my lap, ensuring this land remains agricultural for generations. I open Grandpa's journal to the inscription I read each evening: "Patience outlasts ridicule, truth outlives lies." Golden light filters through apple blossoms as I watch my bees return home. Workshop laughter drifts from the honey house where visitors gather. 36 hives hum with life, each queen descended from Grandpa's original strain. Grandpa planted, Thomas tended. I just learned to believe, I whisper to the fading day. Across the field, jars of honey catch sunset light through the workshop window, transforming ordinary glass into vessels of liquid gold. And good things, they always find their way back.